What's up, everybody? It's Ray from Infinity Personal Training here again. Back with part 2, as promised, of the stuff on metabolism. What I want to start with is, let's recap. So last week we kind of talked about the reasons, or what would happen when you kind of diet down so much, and then signs and symptoms. What I want everyone to realize is, I touched on this in the beginning of the last video, is that it's been shown that the body adapts to what you're doing every 4 to 10 days. So think about that. Your body is pretty responsive and fast in terms of how quickly it reacts to what you're doing. All right. Today, the main focus is breaking down the different parts of metabolism, because I think most people treat the body like a calculator, and everyone just thinks the metabolism is just this fixed thing, but there's multiple parts of it as far as what's out with the most recent science and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't break this down unless you're kind of studying either nutrition or exercise science or something like that. So anyhow, let's get started with this. So this chart is breaking down total daily energy expenditure. That's what this TDEE means, total daily energy expenditure. So this is all of your daily energy expending throughout the day. All right, and then you'll notice it's broken up between REE and NREE. REE is resting energy expenditure, and then NREE is non-resting energy expenditure. All right, BMR, okay, that stands for basal metabolic rate. Okay, what you need to know is that that makes up 70% of your total metabolic rate. Okay, so these are your BMR, all the actions your body needs to go through just to keep you alive. All right, so this is kind of just like, you know, bare minimum stuff for you just to stay alive and just kind of remain or exist, if you will. All right, and then so that's resting. So at rest, 70% of your metabolism is made up of that. All right, and then we move up the line here. NEAT stands for non-exercise associated thermogenesis. Okay, thermogenesis is basically your body giving off heat. Okay, so think of like an engine giving off heat. It's the same thing. So you actually burn calories from doing that. All right, and that's called non-exercise associated thermogenesis. And this is produced from things like your basic daily extra stuff, so like cooking, writing, right? Just basic moving around. This could be also walking, right? And this is the main reason. So if you look at this, it makes up a bigger percentage of these top two here, which we're about to dive into. But this is the main reason that cultures that walk around a lot and aren't as sedentary in their lifestyles, their metabolism, they maintain a higher metabolic rate, because this non-exercise associated thermogenesis stays up. Okay? The next part is the thermic effect of food, which is about 10% of your metabolism. Okay, so what that means is every time you eat, you burn calories. All right, so every time you eat, it actually increases your metabolism because you give off heat to burn or digest food. Now, notice it's only 10%. So it doesn't mean like every single time you eat a huge meal that you're going to burn a lot of calories. If you look at the amount that you're burning relative to a whole day, you know, let's say you burn 2,000 calories a day with everything included, right? And then but depending upon how much you're eating, right? 10% of the metabolism is coming from from the digestion of food, or just from the effect of eating. That's not a whole lot compared to 2,000, right? So it's really only like 200. All right, so every time you eat, you burn calories. The quick, or the main thing to think about with TEF, or thermic effect of food, is that fibrous foods, especially vegetables, and protein, so lean meats and proteins, boost thermogenesis more than all your other foods. Okay, so now you can see why there's a huge benefit to eating more fiber and protein, because you will increase this part of your metabolism. All right, the last part, EAT, That stands for exercise-associated thermogenesis. Okay, I want you to notice something big here. NEAT is about 15%, thermic effect of food is about 10%, and then exercise thermogenesis is only 5%. Okay? What do most people focus on in terms of trying to lose weight or affecting their metabolism? This part. But notice, again, it's only 5% of your metabolic rate. Most people focus on this alone, which is why I kind of wanted to break down this whole entire chart so you know the different parts of metabolism. Alright, so again, fiber and protein-based foods boost your metabolism. But the other key thing to note here, when dieting down severely, meaning like when you start cutting calories and you're exercising a lot more than you're used to, or a lot more than you can handle, and you start facing burnout, or your metabolism is slowing down, this here, this NEAT, non-exercise associated thermogenesis, so this is just you giving off heat from basic activity, this decreases the most. Okay, there's not too much science out on why, but just understand that these other two don't, or the other three categories don't take as big of a hit. Alright, on another note, guess what maintains 2/3 of your metabolic rate? Alright, so just this BMR number here, 70%, what has the biggest effect on this is muscle mass. Okay, so I want everybody to understand the reason that's important is because the more muscle you have on your body, the more your BMR is going to stay at a high rate, or the more your metabolism, or the higher your metabolic rate will be, the more muscle, based on your muscle mass. Okay, so this is where resistance training comes in, and that's why it's important. So a lot of times you see people at the gym and they're just kind of plugging away on cardio equipment, usually females mostly, and they're not getting results. It's because you're not building any lean muscle tissue, right? So weight training is very, very important, especially as you age. Alright, so these are the different parts of metabolism. Alright, so what I want everybody to understand is the body adapts to what you're doing, again, every 4 to 10 days. And when you're severely dieting, the non-exercise associated thermogenesis is what decreases the most. So what I want everybody to understand is when you diet down, or you're eating less calories, or you're trying to do a eat less, exercise more approach, what tends to happen is you see a huge decrease in metabolism because your body's always trying to adapt, right? So it's always trying to maintain balance. So if you're like eating less and then exercising more, it's going to lower your metabolic rate, and those effects come from the thermic effect of food, right? So you're eating less, so that part of your metabolism is going to go down. Your BMR goes down. It might be your thyroid metabolism going down or having a decrease, and that's more due to, one, are you retaining muscle mass? Because if you're under eating and then you're working out like crazy and you're not recovering properly, you won't maintain muscle mass, which will greater decrease this number. And then there's other hormonal effects that happen, which I'll expand on in later videos as well. It's a lot to cover, but parts that will affect your metabolism is the adaptation, right? So the studies show after 4 to 10 days, we're talking about a 5%-ish decrease in metabolic rate. So that's 100 to 300 calories per day. All right, that may be it may be offset with activity, but you also have remember, from dieting down, the NEAT decreases a lot, right? So the major point here is if the body is constantly adapting, and we're seeing a 5% adaptation of, say, 300 calories less per day. So that means your body's going to try and burn less calories because it's trying to become more efficient once you start an exercise program, right? So it's decreasing your metabolic rate by 100 to 300 calories per day. All right, so what does that mean for, or I guess what's an example of how that works? And I'm going to go through that right now. All right, so here's an example here. So I'm going to try and make this as simple as possible because I know we just covered a lot. So assume your total daily energy expenditure. So say we calculated everything, right? So we took your BMR, we took your exercise, all that stuff, and added it all up, and assume you burn, we figured out that you burn 2,000 calories per day from all of that. Alright? We use the standard approach, which is everyone likes to try and eat less and exercise more, right? So say we start cutting our calories. The standard is to say, oh yeah, you know, well, let's cut 500 calories a day, and every trainer out there will tell you 500 calories a day over 7 days equals 1 pound of fat or 1 pound of weight loss a week. Alright? This is the standard way that everybody thinks. I mean, this is how we do it, right? This is how it's taught, but the question is, does it really work? Alright, so let's look. Initially, what happens is weight loss, alright? So it's like, bam, the first month or two, maybe we lose weight, right? But what people don't take into account is the metabolic compensation, which we just talked about, right? So if the body adapts every 4 to 10 days, it's going to decrease your metabolic rate by 250 to 300 calories per day. And I'm estimating it could be as low as 100 and up to 300, right? But point is, it still cuts it down, right? So what happens now is, instead of burning 2,000 calories per day, because your body is trying to adapt, it's now burning, say, 1,700 calories per day. Okay? Now what? So you're doing all the same exercise and you're eating the same amount of calories, but your body just shifted your metabolism down. Okay, so here is where we start to stall, because guess what? You're no longer burning the same amount of calories. Okay, but what do most people think they need to do? Cut calories even more, right? So people stall, they hit a wall, or what's commonly called a plateau, and then we try and cut calories even more. So now this person says to themselves, well, I'm not losing weight, so instead of staying at the same calories or trying to figure out the adaptation, which isn't common, we're going to try and cut calories more. So what do? They'll cut like another 200 or 300. So now we're going to decrease our calorie intake, right? Say they were eating 2,000 calories a day, they're going to try and say cut it down to 1,700 calories per day. Okay, we go 10 days go by. Guess what? You have metabolic compensation again. So now how much you burn is going to go down to 1,400 calories per day. And I'm keeping this constant. It obviously doesn't work that way exactly. But the point is, if you keep cutting calories and increasing exercise, your metabolic rate from adaptation starts to decrease. And you'll hit a wall every single time. And then long term, the 5% is what comes from that, or the 5% is that adaptation. Long term, if you keep doing this, then you can see up to a 45% decrease from the other categories that we looked at. And that was from BMR, right? Because the more you cut your calories, the more you're going to lose muscle mass, because you can't maintain it if you're not recovering, right? So this number here is going to keep decreasing, and this person is going to keep hitting the wall, and then they're going to wonder and sit there and say, well, how come I'm eating less and I'm not losing weight? This is the reason right here. It's because your body is decreasing your metabolism over time, and you're trying to cut calories every single time. All right, so here's what we need to understand. Doing this approach is not the right way to try and drop weight. We need to start at a higher amount of calories and really balance out the approach. And that's what I'll talk about that more in the next video. But what I really wanted to focus on is showing you like how over time, if you continue to cut calories and exercise more, what happens is the body's going to keep adapting, and then you'll keep stalling, and nothing's going to happen. You're not going to move in the right direction. So how do we get out of this? That's going to be in video 3. Again, guys, if you have any questions, definitely post them below. I'm trying to break this down as easy as possible and keep it as short as possible. But hope that was helpful. See you guys next time.